Eleanor Caldwell froze in her home office as the hidden camera feed flickered to life on her monitor. There in her daughter's bedroom was not the seduction she feared, but something far more shocking. Her only child, Danielle, was on one knee, proposing to Tegan with a ring. The velvet box glinted under the soft lamplight while Danielle's voice carried clearly through the audio, steady and full of hope. "Tegan, you've shown me what real love feels like. Will you marry me?" Eleanor's breath caught. The woman she had hired a private investigator to watch, the one she had labeled a predator from the wrong side of Brooklyn, now stood there with tears in her eyes, nodding yes before pulling Danielle into an embrace that looked anything but manipulative. Eleanor's hand slammed the laptop shut, but the image burned behind her eyelids. She had installed the camera 2 weeks ago, convinced Danielle was being groomed. Now the evidence proved the opposite. Her daughter had chosen this path herself. The penthouse on Fifth Avenue felt colder than usual that evening. Eleanor paced the marble floor, her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows showing a woman who had built a billion-dollar hedge fund empire from nothing. At 56, she still wore power suits even at home, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight chignon. Danielle was supposed to be the heir who would continue the legacy, not the girl throwing it away on some barista she met at Columbia. Eleanor remembered the first time suspicion crept in. Danielle had come home late from study sessions, cheeks flushed, talking about this amazing person, who understood her in ways no one else did. Then came the Instagram stories of the two of them at rooftop parties, arms around each other a little too long. Eleanor's own mother had drilled into her that same-sex attraction was a phase, a weakness wealthy families could not afford. After her divorce from Danielle's father, Eleanor had sworn she would protect her daughter from every trap the world set. Installing the camera felt like the only responsible move. She told herself it was love, not control. But love had just been rewritten in front of her eyes. Eleanor replayed the footage 3 times, each viewing tightening the knot in her stomach. Danielle's smile was brighter than Eleanor had seen in years. Tegan, with her simple jeans and messy ponytail, looked genuinely stunned and happy, not calculating. Still, Eleanor's mind raced through every worst-case scenario the media loved to spin. Gold digger stories, family rifts, board members whispering about instability at Caldwell Capital. She could already hear the questions at the next shareholder meeting. By midnight, Eleanor had made her decision. She would confront them tomorrow. Privacy be damned. A mother's duty came first. The next morning Danielle walked into the kitchen humming, still glowing from the night before. She wore an old Columbia sweatshirt and leggings, her dark hair loose for once. "Morning, Mum. Coffee?" Eleanor set her tablet down, the paused frame of the proposal staring up at them both. "We need to talk. Now." Danielle's smile faded the moment she saw the screen. "You were watching me?" The question hung between them like broken glass. Eleanor's voice stayed calm, the same tone she used in boardrooms. "I had to know if she was taking advantage of you. But this is worse. You're throwing away your future for a girl who has nothing." Danielle's hands shook as she gripped the counter. "Tegan has me. That's everything." The argument escalated quickly, voices rising until the doorman downstairs probably heard. Danielle accused her mother of betrayal. Eleanor accused her daughter of blindness. By the time Tegan arrived for their planned brunch, the air in the penthouse crackled with unspoken ultimatums. Eleanor watched the 2 young women exchange a look that confirmed everything the camera had shown. This was no phase. This was real. And real meant war. Danielle stormed out with Tegan, suitcase in hand, but not before Eleanor delivered the first blow. "If you walk out that door with her, don't expect a dime from the trust fund. I built this empire so you wouldn't have to struggle. Don't make me regret it." The door slammed. In the silence that followed, Eleanor sank into the leather chair, staring at the now dark monitor. She had always believed protection meant control. Her own mother had lost everything to a charming but broke man. Eleanor had sworn her daughter would never repeat that mistake. But watching Danielle choose love over security cracked something inside her she refused to name. Later that afternoon Eleanor called her lawyer. "Draft the paperwork. Freeze the accounts except for tuition. She'll come back when reality hits." Yet even as she spoke the words, doubt flickered. The proposal replayed in her mind, not as defiance but as courage. Across town in Tegan's tiny walk-up in Bushwick, Danielle sat on the edge of the bed, ring still on her finger. She spied on us, Teague. Like I was a criminal. Tegan wrapped her arms around her, but her own face showed strain. She had grown up in foster care, scraping by on scholarships and late-night shifts at a coffee shop near campus. Falling for Danielle had felt like winning the lottery until now. Maybe give her time. Billionaires don't handle surprises well. Danielle laughed bitterly. Time? She violated my privacy because she assumed you were seducing me. As if I have no mind of my own. The conversation stretched late into the night. Danielle confessed the pressure she had carried since childhood. Straight A's, Ivy League, perfect heiress. Coming out had never been an option in her mother's world. Tegan listened, then shared her own fears. I'm not after your money. I just want you. They fell asleep tangled together, but Danielle woke at 3 a.m. wondering if love was worth losing the only family she had ever known. Back in the penthouse, Eleanor couldn't sleep either. She opened old photo albums on her phone. Danielle at 5 on her first pony, at 16 accepting a science award, at 21 graduating summa cum laude. Every picture showed a girl who had followed the script. Until Tegan, Eleanor's assistant, texted the next morning. Board meeting moved up. Rumors are circulating about family issues. Eleanor deleted the message. She had built her reputation on iron control. Now that control was slipping. She decided to call in reinforcements. Her sister Margaret, the only relative who still spoke to her, arrived by private jet from Chicago that afternoon. You did the right thing installing the camera, Margaret said over scotch. These girls get confused. Send her to that conversion program in Vermont I told you about. Eleanor nodded, but the words tasted wrong. For the first time she wondered if the real confusion was hers. That evening Danielle received the official letter from the family attorney. Trust fund frozen. Credit cards canceled. Effective immediately. She stared at the paper, tears blurring the legal jargon. Tegan found her on the fire escape. We'll figure it out. I've lived broke my whole life. But Danielle heard the fear underneath. She had never paid her own rent, never worried about groceries. The proposal that had felt like freedom now carried the weight of consequences. She called her mother. Is this really what you want? To make me choose between you and the person I love? Eleanor's answer was ice. I want my daughter back. The one who understood duty. The line went dead. Danielle turned to Tegan. She thinks she's protecting me, but she's destroying us. The two women held each other as New York traffic roared below, both realizing the fight had only just begun. Weeks turned into a tense standoff. Danielle moved in permanently with Tegan, taking a part-time job at the same coffee shop to cover rent. Mornings started with cheap instant coffee and ended with late-night shifts. She had never known exhaustion like this, but she had also never known freedom. Tegan encouraged her to finish her master's thesis remotely, proud every time Danielle submitted a page. Yet doubt crept in during quiet moments. Danielle would catch herself checking her bank app. The zero balance a constant reminder of her mother's power. Inner conflict raged. Part of her missed the safety of the penthouse, the driver, the certainty. Another part, the part that had dropped to one knee, refused to apologize for loving a woman. Eleanor threw herself into work, closing 3 major deals in 10 days. The board praised her focus, unaware the late nights were spent reviewing the hidden camera footage again and again. She had removed the device after the confrontation, but the recordings remained. Watching Danielle laugh with Tegan, cook simple pasta in that cramped kitchen, Eleanor felt an unfamiliar ache. Was this the daughter she had raised to conquer the world? Or had she raised a stranger? Her therapist, the one she had seen only twice, suggested family counseling. Eleanor laughed it off. Counseling is for people who can't afford solutions. But alone at 2 a.m. she whispered to the empty room. What if I'm wrong? The thought terrified her more than any market crash. Margaret pushed harder. I found a discreet clinic. They handle these cases quietly. 1 month and she'll see reason. Eleanor almost agreed until she received an anonymous email with a photo. Danielle and Tegan at a small pride event in Brooklyn, holding hands openly. The caption read, "Your daughter looks happy. When was the last time you saw that?" Eleanor deleted it, but the image stayed. She began driving past Tegan's building at night, telling herself it was concern, not obsession. One evening she saw them through the window, Danielle resting her head on Tegan's shoulder while they watched a movie. The domestic simplicity hit Eleanor like a physical blow. She drove home and poured another scotch, questioning every choice that had led her here. Danielle faced her own moral crossroads. A former classmate offered her an internship at a rival firm, the kind that could rebuild her financial future. The catch: it required moving to London for 6 months alone. Tegan encouraged her to take it. "I'll wait. Your dreams matter." But Danielle saw the flicker of fear in Tegan's eyes. Accepting would mean distance, refusing would mean continued struggle. She chose to stay, turning down the offer. That night she told Tegan, "I proposed because I want a life with you, not around you." They celebrated with cheap wine on the rooftop, but Danielle lay awake afterward, wondering if love required such sacrifice, or if she was simply punishing herself for her mother's prejudice. The first public crack appeared at a charity gala Eleanor could not avoid. Photographers caught Danielle and Tegan arriving hand in hand. Danielle in a simple black dress she had bought secondhand. Headlines the next morning read, "Caldwell heiress spotted with mystery woman." Eleanor's phone exploded with calls. Board members demanded explanations. In the boardroom she maintained composure, but inside the walls she had built for decades began to tremble. That evening she sent Danielle a single text. "We need to talk. Privately." Danielle stared at the message for 20 minutes before replying, "Only if Tegan can come." Eleanor's silence spoke volumes. The standoff continued, each woman measuring the cost of her convictions. Betrayal arrived from an unexpected source. Margaret, tired of Eleanor's indecision, leaked the existence of the camera footage to a tabloid contact. The story exploded online within hours. Billionaire spied on lesbian daughter's proposal. Danielle woke to hundreds of notifications. Her face and Tegan's splashed across gossip sites. Comments ranged from supportive to vicious. "Poor girl brainwashed." "Mother did what any parent would." Danielle's thesis advisor called, concerned about professional image. Tegan's boss at the coffee shop asked her to take a week off, until things calmed down. The invasion Eleanor had started had now consumed them both. Danielle confronted her aunt at a coffee shop near Columbia. "How could you?" Margaret sipped her latte without remorse. "Your mother needed a push. This lifestyle will ruin the family name." Danielle walked away shaking, realizing family loyalty had limits when prejudice entered the equation. She returned home to find Tegan packing a bag. "I'm not leaving you," Tegan said quickly. "But maybe I should stay with a friend for a bit. The reporters are outside." Danielle pulled her close. "No. We face this together." Yet the strain showed. Tegan began sleeping less, jumping at every knock. Danielle's guilt grew. Her choice to propose had dragged the woman she loved into a media storm. Eleanor watched the coverage from her office, horrified. She fired her head of security for failing to contain the leak, but the damage was done. Board members scheduled an emergency vote on her leadership. For the first time in her career, Eleanor Caldwell faced losing control of the company she had built. She called Danielle that night, voice cracking for the first time. "I never meant for this to happen. Come home. We'll fix it quietly." Danielle's answer was quiet steel. "There's nothing to fix, Mom. I'm not broken." The call ended in tears on both ends. Eleanor sat in the dark penthouse, the city lights mocking her isolation. She had traded her daughter's trust for the illusion of safety, and now both were paying the price. The confrontation peaked at a neutral location, a private conference room at the plaza. Eleanor arrived first. Papers spread out offering Danielle a generous monthly allowance if she took time to reflect away from Tegan. Danielle and Tegan arrived together. The moment Eleanor saw the ring still on her daughter's finger, something shifted. Arguments flew. Privacy rights, generational values, financial independence. Tegan spoke for the first time, calm and clear. "I love your daughter, Mrs. Caldwell. Not your money." Eleanor studied the young woman she had once dismissed and saw no calculation, only sincerity. The meeting ended without agreement, but the seed of doubt had been planted deeper than before. Danielle made the hardest trade-off yet. She accepted a modest research assistant position at a nonprofit focused on LGBTQ youth advocacy, salary barely enough for rent. The decision meant postponing her master's, but it also meant aligning her life with her truth. Tegan picked up extra shifts and started tutoring online. Their apartment became a sanctuary of small victories. Shared grocery lists, late-night talks, the ring now worn openly. Yet Danielle cried in the shower some mornings, mourning the ease she had lost. She wrote letters to her mother she never sent, pages filled with anger and love in equal measure. Eleanor's empire began to crack publicly. 2 major investors pulled out after the scandal, citing reputational risk. She spent nights reviewing old footage again, pausing on the proposal moment. Slowly, painfully, she started researching support groups for parents of LGBTQ children. The first article she read made her close the laptop in shame. "I thought I was protecting her," she whispered. Her therapist finally convinced her to attend one virtual meeting. Listening to other parents describe similar journeys, Eleanor felt the first crack in her certainty. Still, pride kept her from reaching out to Danielle. A second betrayal came from within the company. A longtime vice president, sensing weakness, attempted a board coup. Eleanor fought back with every legal and financial weapon she possessed, winning narrowly. The victory tasted hollow. That same week she drove to Bushwick unannounced and sat in her car across from Tegan's building for 2 hours, watching the lights in the window. She saw Danielle laugh at something Tegan said, the sound carrying faintly through the cracked glass. Eleanor drove away without knocking, tears blurring the road. Danielle faced her own moment of awakening during a youth center event. A teenager struggling with coming out asked her, "Did your mom ever accept you?" Danielle answered honestly, "She's still trying." The words lingered. Later that night she told Tegan, "I don't want to spend my life waiting for her approval. I want to build something real with you." They renewed their quiet promise, planning a small civil ceremony for the following spring, no extravagance, just them. The decision lifted a weight Danielle had carried since the camera discovery. She was no longer the heiress. She was simply Danielle, choosing love on her own terms. Eleanor received the invitation in the mail, plain white envelope, no return address needed. Inside was a handwritten note from Danielle. "You're invited to witness the happiest day of my life. No pressure. Just truth." Eleanor held the card for a long time, the weight of every choice pressing down. She had lost control, lost money, lost sleep, but perhaps finally, she was beginning to see her daughter clearly. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms along the Brooklyn promenade. The small ceremony took place at a modest community center overlooking the river. 20 close friends, no press, no cameras except the one Tegan's best friend held. Danielle wore a simple white suit. Tegan wore a soft lavender dress. When they exchanged vows, Danielle's voice caught only once, remembering the girl who once needed her mother's approval. Tegan's promise was steady. "I choose you every day no matter what." They kissed to quiet applause, the kind of happiness that doesn't need wealth to shine. Eleanor watched from the back row, having slipped in unnoticed. She had spent the previous month in therapy and quiet reflection, selling a vacation home to replace some of the funds she had frozen. The board had stabilized, but her priorities had shifted. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Eleanor remained silent, tears streaming down her face. After the ceremony she approached the couple. "I was wrong," she said simply. "I thought protecting you meant controlling you. It took losing you to understand love doesn't work that way." Danielle hugged her mother for the first time in months. "It's a start, Mom." Tegan extended her hand. "There's room for 3 in this family if you want." Eleanor took it, the gesture small but seismic. Months later the 3 women shared Sunday brunch in a new, larger apartment Eleanor had quietly helped secure without strings. Conversations were still careful, old wounds healing slowly, but laughter came easier. Danielle finished her master's part-time while working at the nonprofit. Tegan opened a small cafe with a loan Eleanor co-signed as a business partner, not a controller. Eleanor began volunteering at the same youth center, listening more than speaking. The camera was never mentioned again. Its ghost had been replaced by honest conversation. Looking back, every character had paid a price. Danielle her inheritance, Tegan her privacy, Eleanor her pride. Yet each had gained something greater. The freedom to choose love without apology. The journey from suspicion to acceptance had been messy, painful, and deeply human. True or false? A parent's fear of society's judgment justifies secretly invading their child's privacy to steer them toward the right path?